Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host. Yes, indeed. And today, if you're not watching the YouTube or Rumble video, you're going to be missing an awful lot. And we're going to do our best, to those of you who are listening on the broadcast or podcast, to do our best to describe. But I highly recommend you go to the YouTube channel of Tell Me Your Story or the Rumble channel of Tell Me Your Story to see what we're going to be talking about with our very special guest, incredible artist, I like to say, photographer. His name is TomMurphy. And Tom, thank you so much for being with us here on the program. And your main focus as we get started here is going to be not only on the work that you've done regarding Yellowstone, but also, I would say, a rather prestigious honor of having one of your images on a U.S. postage stamp. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Richard. Nice to be here. Good morning. It's morning in Montana today. So
yeah, morning here as well as we have this conversation, and I'm real excited about this conversation because of the work that you are doing. Now, people can go to a website and see more of your work. They could do that. TomMurphyWild.com will be linked to that website as well. So I hope people will take the liberty, so to speak, and do that.
Thank you.
First of all, how did you get connected with the U.S. Postal Service for them to choose one of your images as a postage stamp? And the image, am I correct, is it a bison or a buffalo, or is there really a difference?
There's a difference, but commonly referred to as buffalo, but the scientific name is bison.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And how did you hook up with the U.S. Postal Service?
Well, kind of fell in my lap. There's a neighbor here named Glenn Plum, who has worked in Yellowstone in the past and other places on bison. And of course, I've been in Yellowstone area for 48 years now, living in Livingston, Montana, just north of the park. And he knew I had good bison photographs, so he's the one who told the Postal Service to contact me. So I got this email out of the blue, said they're looking for bison photographs for a postage stamp, and I sent them some of my favorites, including this one right behind me up here. Which has become pretty famous bison photograph. And that wasn't what they wanted. They wanted a broadside profile kind of shot. And I sent them another batch along that line, and they really liked it. So they tell me it's going to be released in Boston the end of May this year in 2026, and maybe as many as 15 million stamps.
Oh, wow.
So it'll be in every post office across the country.
Hmm. Now, I'm curious, do you think you will get the first 10 or 100 stamps printed, sent to you so you have those for your archives? How does that work out? Or do you get an enlarged version of that stamp to frame and put on your wall behind you there?
Well, yeah, I don't know. They haven't told me the exact date, but it's kind of a big deal, I guess, in Boston. So uh, we'll see.
Yeah.
They're going to do T-shirts and coffee mugs and all that kind of stuff as well. But
Well, we're
um,
going to make it a point. My wife and I are big
yeah.
nature lovers and animal lovers and so forth. And as much as we loved the television series by Kevin Costner of Yellowstone, it bothered me that it would encourage people to flock to the area to buy property, develop, and so forth. And that's kind of what happens. Santa Barbara used to be a very small town. We live in a community, really can't grow too much. It's called Twin Peaks, next to Lake Arrowhead up here in the San Bernardino Mountains. And there's about 1,500 people in this small community of Twin Peaks. And like I said, it can't grow very far. And yet, when we first moved up here, we started driving around. I was shocked that in one of the small communities, they have a McDonald's. And in Lake Arrowhead, they have a McDonald's and a Starbucks and so forth. It's like the folks, well, they like their modern conveniences, but at the same time, living out in the wilderness, and I take it you live in an area like that where you are surrounded by the natural world.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Livingston, Montana's on Interstate 90 from Seattle to Boston. It goes across the country, but we're 65 or 60 miles north of Yellowstone Park, and we're on the north edge of a thing called the Greater Yellowstone Ecosystem.
Hmm.
It's about 20 million acres of mostly wild country. The Park itself is in the middle of that, about 2.2 million acres. Then there's wilderness areas, the Shoshone Wilderness, Bridger Teton, and the Absaroka Beartooth Wilderness. And then it goes on south into Jackson Hole, the Tetons. So it's a pretty extensive wild area. And I
Yeah.
feel pretty lucky that I can get in a car in the morning, drive south, and within an hour, I've got a really good chance to see grizzly bears and bison and elk and wolves. And the core of that wild area is Yellowstone Park itself. So again, it's big, 2.2 million acres, and we're getting about 5 million people a year visiting Yellowstone,
Hmm.
which I have sort of mixed feelings about that. I'm really happy that people want to see this wild country.
Hmm.
I mean, you can go to a gift shop and buy a T-shirt and a coffee mug, but that's not the reason most people come.
Right.
They want to see wild creatures, and according to the surveys that Yellowstone has done, the number one draw for people in Yellowstone is to see a bison.
Hmm. Well, and of course, we've also seen some of the news stories as well as some documentaries on the unfortunate stupidity of people who want to have a selfie with a bison. In particular, I've seen people being chased and some people get trampled and those types of things. And it's like I don't care whether it's a crow, some of the flying critters that are in the wilderness, or a bear, or a turkey, or a bison. I'm going to keep my distance because it's a rough life enough as it is for wildlife to survive, to
Correct.
live. But
Well,
then
it's
when
their
humans intervene, it
yeah.
it becomes a real problem.
Well, it's their home, so that's
Yeah.
sort of my attitude when I'm observing wild country and wild creatures. They live here.
Yeah.
They're not there for my benefit. They're there for themselves.
Am I correct that Yellowstone was one of the first or the first um, national park created? And I think it was by Roosevelt back in the 30s. Again, I'm not sure if my information's correct. I just seem to remember stuff coming to my head that it
It
was
was
one of.
it's the first national park in the world. It
Mhm.
was established in March 1st,
Ah,
1872, legislation was signed by Ulysses Grant.
Ah,
Theodore Roosevelt is given a lot of credit for Yellowstone. He was only 16 years old when Yellowstone was established. He deserves a lot of credit for wildland preservation, though. As president, he uh, designated a lot of country as national monuments, created basically the National Forest Reserve. So, yeah, Theodore Roosevelt was critical for wild country, but he didn't. He visited Yellowstone a couple of times, but
okay.
otherwise, he didn't have anything to do with it.
All right. Well, I will put that in my file there that Ulysses S. Grant actually
Mhm. Yeah.
established the very first national park in the world,
Yep.
in this country, and so forth. Um, what is it about the natural world that intrigues you, and maybe even Yellowstone in particular, that draws you out there where, you are out amongst the wildlife and you are kind of taking your life into your own hands. And again, I know you're not trying to interact with them and get selfies. Um, what kind of distance do you keep when you're taking these photographs?
Uh, I try to stay away from them as far as I can because I don't want them interacting with me. It's not the photographs that I want to make are to illustrate who these animals are, not what
Hmm.
they are. It's not.
Right.
It's a bison. That's fine, but who they are is how do they make a living? How do they interact with each other? How do they interact with the landscape? Relate to each other? And and the reason I'm drawn to wild country and wild creatures is that that's where we came from. We evolved out of wild land. Our ancestors, not too far back, sometimes just 3 or 4 generations, maybe 10 generations, hunter-gatherers, basic farmers and agriculturalists. And so we really not that far removed from actually making a living in that kind of country.
Hmm.
And people, like you have pet animals, cats and dogs and fish and whatever.
Hmm.
We're trying to get a connection, I think, with where we came from. Wild
Hmm.
creatures. You have semi-domesticated animals, and they're interesting. But I don't own any pets, but I grew up on a cattle ranch in western South Dakota, beef cattle. So it was a lot of work. So I don't like cows or horses particularly because they work when I was a kid. But I did learn a lot about animals.
Yeah.
And so, for example, Hereford cows, which I grew up with, in a lot of ways act like bison. They act like wildebeest,
Hmm.
act like elk. There's a lot of similar behaviors that I recognize. And so I'm trying to basically tell a story of wild country because it's valuable. It's really important. It's a reservoir for evolution still, and the more wild country we can protect, the better our own personal future will be. And so, I my goal is I like to eat, so I try to make a living at this. But my bigger goal is to illustrate and show the beauty of these creatures and wild land. And then if people find them beautiful, then they will find them valuable. And if they find them valuable, then they're more likely to work to protect them.
Yeah. We're talking with Tom Murphy, a photographer. He's got some incredible images and an soon to be released postage stamp put out by the U.S. Postal Service, which you will see if you are looking at the YouTube or Rumble video that we are posting. So please go there and take a look at the work or go to tmurphywild.com as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Reverend Dr. D. He is Tom Murphy, the photographer. How long have you been taking pictures?
I bought my first camera a little over 50 years ago. And just because I was a backpacker, I like to be outside. I went to college initially to be a chemist, and I realized I didn't want to live in a chemistry lab. So I spent my time as much as I could outside after I left the ranch. And I had I'd never taken a photograph in my life. So I learned how to make photographs on my own.
Hmm.
Ended up with a bachelor's degree in anthropology, which is, human behavior rather than wildlife behavior.
Yeah.
And so I think I have a PhD in photography from Trash Can University because I made a lot of photographs and threw a lot of them away. And
I love that.
and started out initially with black and white
Mm,
photography. And it's a great way to learn because if you don't have good composition, you got nothing. So it's pretty, you can be fooled by pretty colors
yeah.
sometimes, but if you don't have composition, then ultimately you don't have anything.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so I did that. Well, I was trying to make a living doing other things. I was a truck driver and concrete finisher. I have a varied and checkered past with a lot of things I've done. Growing up on a cattle ranch out in the middle of nowhere, you had to be pretty self-reliant. So,
Hmm.
so that was, being self-taught. I taught myself how to backcountry ski. I'm not good at it, but I can get there. So, uh, so I started making a living at photography about 40 years ago.
Mm,
Uh, actually 41 years ago, 1985, I come up with this idea of doing a business in Yellowstone Park or using Yellowstone Park. So I went down to Mammoth Hot Springs, the headquarters of Yellowstone, and told the concessions people this idea for a business. I wanted to teach photography in Yellowstone Park, and you need a permit for a business there in the park. And they said, "Can you come back in a couple of weeks because we have to write some regulations?" So I had the very first permit as a business to teach photography as a Yellowstone
yeah.
in Yellowstone Park. There's now about 150 of them in the park. And so that became the core of my livelihood for the
Mm.
last 40 years was teaching photography. And then
Well,
because of that, I've traveled to Antarctica and Africa and
oh,
Alaska, all over the world. But
wow.
Yellowstone is still the core of my spiritual center as well as, I mean, it's just down the road from me.
Right. We're going to talk about that. Now, I've only done this one other time in an interview. I want to show you something. You and I share the affinity for black and white. In college, in junior college, I took a black and white photography class, and my father
Oh yeah.
gave
Wow.
me this. I still have it, and I had all of the equipment to process from putting the film, the 35 millimeter film, in the camera, all the way to hanging the pictures on a wire, and to my brother's consternation, in our bedroom, where I had the windows blacked out. I had the trays. Learned very early on, do not use metal trays because the chemicals eat right through them.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, I got to tell you, I loved it. I absolutely loved taking pictures. And you mentioned a composition. My downfall, because of my visual impairment at the time, was that I could not get the contrast to the instructor's liking.
Hmm.
But it didn't stop me. I still had a great time.
Right, right.
What was your first camera that maybe you still have today, or that just gave you such joy to be taking pictures? And as you said before, you had everything to take the picture, process it, print it, so to speak, with the enlarger and all that good stuff.
Hmm. Well, I should have brought it with me. I still have it. The very first 35 millimeter camera I owned was a Nikkormat, Nikon, the amateur version of their line,
Hmm.
and I still have it. It's really heavy. It's like a little hockey puck. And, then I went to a 4x5 view camera, black and white.
Oh,
Sort of
wow.
partly the inspiration was because Ansel Adams landscapes on these big negatives, and so I've been mostly a Nikon shooter. I shot Canon for a couple of years too.
Hmm.
But progression for film, I haven't shot film for about 25 years. I'll never shoot a piece of film again. It's junk compared to the digital files. The only bad news about digital files is you're stuck at a computer, which
Yeah.
means you're inside like I am now.
Yeah.
But it's really high quality reproduction. For example, most films weren't accurate. They were had a green cast, a red cast, an orange cast. a blue cast, whereas digital files are really, really very, very accurate.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so I've gone through the progression. Film cameras, like I said, last one about 25 years ago, and now I'm shooting, the the new mirrorless. The technology has really improved a lot, and it's been interesting. Teaching photography in the last 40 years, I've seen almost every kind of a camera and equipment go by, and when digital finally started getting decent quality, it's pretty neat. Uh, Revitalization and interest in photography because it's easier. Film is
Mm-hmm.
tough. If you miss the exposure, you're out of luck. It's gone. You throw it away. Again, trash can university. And but digital, they're sharper. They have autofocus technology that's absolutely amazing, and you get instant feedback. You can make a photograph and look at it right away. Did it work or not? So it's pretty neat to see this revitalization in people's interest in photography. Now, I don't own a cell phone for a number of reasons, but the cell phone photography is really impressive. And there's a there's an old saying in the newspaper business 100 years ago. Is how do you make a good photograph? F8 and be there. And if you've got a cell
Yeah.
phone, you're going to be there with a phone. So you see some wonderful stuff people shot with their cell phones. So there's nothing wrong with that kind of approach
Yeah.
to recording the things you see.
Statistically speaking, excuse me, it has been said that every day there are over 1 billion pictures taken around the world
Yeah.
that, and this is the other part of the stat, that most people will never look at. They'll
Really?
take it
Oh,
and then
oh,
it's stored on their phone or in the
right.
cloud
Hmm.
and they don't go back and look at it. And then there's the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
part of that statistic is that of those billion pictures, most people, and to your point about F8 and be there, when they're taking these pictures, they're not there. They're in the camera. They're in the
Hmm.
phone, if you will,
Hmm. Hmm.
instead of experiencing the natural world,
Sure.
if that's
Sure.
say where they are, or
Hmm.
an
Hmm.
event, regardless of whatever it is.
Hmm.
Do you ever find yourself, since it's you stick with an actual camera, whether it be digital or analog, that you feel that you are there in the moment, there with the animals, with with nature and so forth, and there is no separation between you and Mother Nature, so to speak.
Um, Good question. The perception a lot of people have is that they take photographs, their whatever it is, their cell phone or a regular camera, that they're concentrating on the camera and they miss what's out in front of
Hmm.
them. Now, from my perspective, when I'm looking to make a photograph, I'm more engaged. I'm not. I know these cameras well enough. I don't think about them hardly at all. It's
Hmm.
just a kind of an extension of my hands or my eyes. So when I'm working on making a photograph, I see more than if I'm just wandering around because
Mm.
I'm trying to put together a story. If I see something happening, I try to think about the background, the lighting, the behavior of the animal, the movement. And so actually I'm more intense concentration on what I'm seeing and what's in front of me. So I'm kind of the opposite of that. People, find the camera a block to
Hmm.
their perception, their view of the place, and I see it as a window.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Uh, I do have to ask you now, those who are looking at the YouTube video of you and I chatting, or the Rumble video, if you will, they're not going to see these pictures, but I highly recommend that you go to tmurphywild.com and you'll see some of these, or go to YouTube or Rumble and pull up the video of Tom and I chatting, because I'm scrolling through some of the images that were sent so people can see them. And when I got to some of them, I'm going, so Tom, did you choreograph some of these animals? Because there was, I want to say they were prairie dogs. I'm not sure what they were, and they were. It was like there was the one at the bottom, then another prairie dog's head was on top of that one, on top of that one, and I'm going, how did he get them to do that? That was a most amazing shot among some of the others as well.
Yeah, thank you. Well, there's a an adage, that Murphy's Law, that
Your
anything
law.
possibly can go wrong will. Well, I don't subscribe to that, even though my name's Murphy. I subscribe to Murphy's luck, and I have a lot of it. And I think you make your own luck to a certain extent. If you're
Hmm.
out there and paying attention, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
So that shot, those are Uinta ground squirrels, is what those creatures
Ah,
are, sort of like a prairie dog. They're a rodent. It was kind of a neat experience. If I have a successful photograph, I can tell you pretty much within about 10 feet of where I was standing. I don't know where my keys are a lot of times, but I can
mhm.
tell you on a successful photograph, it becomes embedded in my memory. And that was a pretty cool experience. I was in Lamar Valley in Yellowstone Park, probably June. I can't remember the exact date, but um, so there was this adult female ground squirrel and at her hole, and she sit up a little bit, and one of the little babies would pop up and look around. So I have a whole series. I actually have her, and then
Oh.
one baby, two babies, three babies, four babies. And then I got, a couple of photographs of all five of them, and then they all went away.
Oh, would that not be a great series on the wall?
Yeah, it could be.
That would be a
Yeah,
fabulous series
yeah.
to have on your wall. That's the other thing too. We just moved here in October of 25, and it's only in the last month or so that we started putting up all of the pictures that we didn't realize how many we had up on our walls here. And it's just amazing. My wife has a strong affinity for wolves. She had a pack of Siberian Huskies back in Phoenix when I met her, and they were actually a sled team.
Hmm.
Oh, and they're tricky too. I got to tell you, schnookered me at least twice while I was there. My wife, she was on a trip to San Francisco with some friends of hers, and I got locked out of the house from the back in the back, and I had to break through a window and squeeze through this very small bathroom window to get back in the house in order to answer the phone that was ringing. And when I picked it up, it was her. And I said, well, let me first say, everybody's okay. To which she said, okay, what happened?
Right, right.
um, this is a remarkable series of images that I have. It's a remarkable series. And my understanding is that you will be putting out some kind of, I want to say picture book, but a book of your photographs sometime in the not too distant future. Is that correct?
Correct. It'll be my 12th, I think 12th or 13th book. And it's the title is, this is going to be backwards in a bad reproduction, but that's the cover of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yellowstone Bison, Return of the Last Wild Herd. So it's going to be 240-page coffee table book,
Whoa.
image driven, about 11 by 12 inches. And again, it's mostly going to be photographs that I've made over the
Mhm.
last 40 years in Yellowstone. I love bison too. Just like most tourists want to see a bison, I'm really happy to see a bison still. And so it's mostly photographs, but the text is going to be some of my writing, but mostly it's going to be written by the park uh, biologist named Chris Jeremiah. He's in charge of managing the bison research going on in Yellowstone. Very knowledgeable guy. He's been doing it for about 20 years. And
There's a,
so his insights
yeah.
from a scientific perspective, my insights basically from more of an artistic perspective.
Mhm.
And the photographs kind of tell that story primarily. And so I'm pretty excited about it. It's supposed to be released in July this year, 2026. And it'll be available, of course, in Mount Yellowstone Park.
Yeah.
Smithsonian in DC is going to carry it. Buffalo Bill Center in Cody, Wyoming is doing a 2-year show on bison. Um, I've contributed a bunch of my bison photographs for that show, and they're going to use this book as basically the catalog for their show.
Mm, incredible. Tom Murphy, our guest here on the program, we're talking about the work that he's doing and the stamp that will soon be released by the U.S. Postal Service of a bison from the side, as it were. And we hope that you will pick up a few of those to put in your archives if you're a stamp collector. I never got into that myself, but for some reason I do have a few stamps in a box somewhere that I managed to find when we were moving. And we'll continue our conversation here on Tell Me Your Story. Tom Murphy's my guest. And Tom, I want to ask you in regards to your connection with Mother Nature about something that I use quite often on this program, a phrase. And I'd like your observation, your perspective on this. I believe, it is a belief, that Mother Nature is our greatest teacher. Your thoughts?
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, I mentioned that a bit ago. That's where we came from. We
Hmm.
evolved in wild country. We evolved in wilderness. And all along, we needed to, we're the result of success, basically. Our ancestors all lived through this experiences. That's why we're here. The ones that didn't make it, they didn't have any kids. So, so my goal is to help try to reconnect people with the value of nature, wild country. So that, for example, you can learn a lot by studying a wheat field, but you can learn a lot more by studying wild place. There's a lot more going on.
Hmm.
The variety from microbes all the way up to to elephants.
Yeah.
Uh, and and we belong in this wild country still. Most people are divorced from it, living in boxes and driving on concrete roads. But there's nothing wrong with that. But it's really important for people, I believe, to be out. Even if you just go to your city park, watch the ducks. I mean, they're basically mostly free roaming creatures as well.
Hmm.
Uh, you can learn a lot by watching wildlife, and I think you find out that there's a lot of wisdom in how nature works. Obviously, it worked because we're here, and
Yeah.
everything else is here now.
Yeah. I get a little perplexed sometimes when I see these green barrels, if you will, or cans out on the street corner filled with all kinds of greenery cuttings. You know, they've trimmed this, they've trimmed that, and the other. And when we were living in Santa Barbara, there was this giant oak tree that I put a fence up around. This I was creating a dog run, so it was around that tree and then obviously in other areas around it and around a pine tree. And what was real interesting to me was how the level of the ground kept rising year after year at the entrance, because this is where the oak tree was, near the entrance to the run. And I kind of already knew this intuitively, but it wasn't until I really did realize, oh, the oak leaves, which I was going to rake, but it's the wilderness. Why would I rake up these? The animals aren't raking up the leaves when they fall off the trees, And I realized, oh, it's the stuff that falls off of the plants that then creates the very soil that they're standing in.
Right.
And some of that soil up where we lived, it was very, very dark. Oh my goodness. It was wonderful to be working in that soil. I was actually cutting up an old pine tree that fell after a storm, and the dirt that had been pulled up from the roots when it fell over was all this dark. It wasn't quite black, but
Mhm.
it smelled so good,
Yep.
just absolutely wonderful. Reminded me of playing in the dirt in the house that I grew up in back in Phoenix. And I've been saying since I got into this business, if not before, that they were going to ruin Phoenix. I don't have a hometown anymore. They've ruined it. It
Yeah.
doesn't exist because I said, look, if you keep laying more asphalt and concrete, you are going to change the dynamics of this. Where do you see in the desert uh, gravel? You don't,
Mhm.
you know. And every time you put more of this stuff down, you create the heat island effect. So, to me, it's like people argue that, oh, man has nothing to do with climate, the changing of the climate. Hey, all I have to do is point you to Phoenix. They're lucky in the summertime if they get under 100 degrees at night. When I was a kid, it'd get down into the upper 60s at night. It
Mhm.
was wonderful. But that aside, I'm curious about your connection when you're out in nature. You kind of referred to this very briefly to I mean, there are all kinds of different names to God, to the divine, to the universe, if you will. You talked about, we talk about our intuition and taking time to listen and follow the promptings. Um, do you get those kinds of impressions? Do you have that kind of a connection that leads you to take the kinds of photographs that you manage to come across? Like you were referring to those squirrels, this family of squirrels, and that one picture, and then you have the series of one, two, three, four, five. It's like, oh, I should go over this way, and then I'm going to put my camera up over here, and I'm going to take this shot, and all of a sudden, it just blossoms. It just, and you are even in awe of that picture, not from an egotistical standpoint, just from a standpoint of, wow, am I glad I listened, kind of thing.
Well, the force of life is what I think is the driver of what's most interesting in on our planet. I mean, rocks are cool as well, but it's how life moves around on this rock and in the water and here and there. So there's always something going on, and and so my approach to my work, I don't really want to call it work as such
Mhm.
because it's fun. It's really fun doing what I'm doing. I'm privileged to be able to see all kinds of really amazing events in the wild in natural world, and so that um, it's a matter of me paying attention a lot of ways. There's ground squirrels that day everywhere, but here was this one female, and this little guy, little baby pops up, and there's something pretty cool going on here, and so it's I think maybe to a certain extent is intuition,
Mhm.
um, but it becomes a lot of that comes from experience. Again, I grew up around animals, and they're always doing something. You know,
Yeah.
whether whether it's interesting or not, they're always trying to make a living themselves. So all these billions of creatures out there moving around, trying to make their own lives. If I'm somewhat educated about the possibilities, what might they do? So it's a matter of trying to uh, put myself in a place where the light's good, in all kinds of weather. Some of my most satisfying photographs were in bad weather. Again, going back to this bison, frosted covered bison up here, it was 30 below zero.
Mm.
And it was out in the Upper Geyser Basin in Yellowstone Park near Old Faithful. And I was the only one out there, this cow, bison, and myself. Um, and so that's part of what I think makes my photographs successful is I'm willing to be out there in all kinds of weather, and and then things are presented, not to me, but they're presented to the world. I mean, she was standing there when I walked up near her, and she wasn't there for me. She was there just enduring this cold overnight, getting all covered with this frost. And then I spent about 20 minutes with her, and then she kind of shook herself, knocked most of that frost off, and walked away to find something to eat. Uh, so the reason that happened, that I was able to make that photograph, was A, I was curious, willing to be out there in any kind of weather, and of course had the equipment and the knowledge to how to use this equipment, and and the patience to wait. I mean, it's not like a rodeo or anything. There's not a car race or anything else. All exciting. It was really quiet, and 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 it was an opportunity and
Hmm.
somewhat some education on my part and willingness to put up with in discomfort to make that photograph.
Mm.
And so I look at it as a privilege ultimately, because like I mentioned earlier, there's always something going on,
Yeah.
and most time it doesn't make a photograph. But even if it doesn't make a photograph, I enjoy watching. I mean, I sit on a hillside in Hayden Valley in Yellowstone Park a lot of times and just watching what's going on. And if somebody asks, I can say, well, I'm working, I'm learning more. So,
Yeah.
and it's working is not the right word because it's not really fun in the sense of, a carnival ride, but
Right.
it's very satisfying and inspiring. These creatures that I'm observing are going about their lives and whatever they are, from a mosquito all the way up to, like I said, an elephant or a giraffe. And so they have their challenges, they have their satisfactions, they have their interactions, and the more I know about um, their lives, the more likely I am to try to illustrate a significant part of their lives. One of the analogies I like to use is if you want to make successful photographs of a baseball game, you need to know the rules of baseball.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you have no idea what they're doing out there. And so that's what I'm doing is I'm watching and trying to learn and also distill um, the the distill their lives. I mean, a lot of times they're, like a bison, for example, is just standing there or lying down chewing her cud and just walking along. That's not a very interesting photograph. But what happens when she approaches a stream or when she approaches another bison or uh, a coyote comes by? I mean, that's where it can get interesting. And so it's a lot of times it's just patience, just waiting. Something will happen, whether
Yeah.
it's worth a photograph or not. I have to make that decision. And so, I spend thousands and thousands of hours every year out wandering around. And if I make, um, you know, a couple dozen photographs a year that are really significant and matter, that's a good year. You
Yeah.
know,
I
it's
know too
not.
for my wife and I when we over 20 years ago when we went to Ireland, both times that we went in 2002 around Christmas and New Year's, and 2004 in February around my wife's birthday, we said, okay, we have this camera. Now, the first time I went, I think it was my father's Kodak digital camera. Very somewhat primitive by today's standards, nonetheless. And then the following year, I used disposable cameras. Okay, and then I sent them to wherever it was I sent them, and they processed them and made them available online. I had to go through every single photograph from the digital camera to brighten every single one of those up. That's how old that camera was. Whereas the digital disposable cameras, I know I take that back. They weren't digital. They were regular film. I didn't have to touch those up at all, which was amazing to me. But the commitment that we made to each other was, if you see something that we think we should take a picture of, we'll stop because
Mhm.
we're driving along the roads there, and so that's what we did, and we got some incredible shots as we went. So have you ever had that where you have your camera with you, maybe, I don't know, maybe all the time? It's like an appendage, if you will, and because you just never know what you're going to come across. Is that sort of the way you operate, or are there times when you just don't have a camera with you?
Well, when I started out, for the first 30 years or 40 years, well, I had a camera nearby a lot of the time. And at this point now, um, so if I go to Africa or go to Antarctica or someplace where it's really foreign to me still, even though I've been to Antarctica 10 times and
Hmm.
Africa half a dozen times, it's still pretty foreign to me. There's lots of cool stuff that I haven't been able to photograph. So I have a camera handy all the time. But if I go into Yellowstone Park, um, um, I I don't always have a camera with me. The experiences are still really satisfying. Even if I have a camera and I don't get the photograph, it's still a good experience. So I have thousands of really wonderful photographs that I missed in my head.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm not remorseful about that. It's
Right.
cool. I saw this stuff and his behaviors and basically it's a learning process for myself. A lot of times things won't repeat themselves. It's like uh, successful photographs. Everything came together, the light, the behavior, and all of that. And that's really satisfying. But just being able to watch um, a coyote catching a mouse, I didn't get a photograph of it, but I guess I'm cheering for the coyote, not the mouse. But sometimes I cheer for the mouse too. But but it's it's mostly for me. Again, I like to eat, so I want to make a living. But um, it's really satisfying to me to maintain this connection with with wilderness, with wild country and wild creatures that live there.
Hmm.
And and it's I guess maybe compare it, people like to climb to the tops of mountains. I mean, they don't most of that is internal satisfaction. And um, so that's my motivation is I just enjoy it.
Absolutely. And we're enjoying this. I am thoroughly enjoying our conversation here and looking at the images that you have taken as we continue talking with Tom Murphy. TMurphyWild.com is the website. We hope you'll go there and be ready to get a copy of his coffee table book about Yellowstone, the images. As he says, it's going to be image heavy, if you will. And I hope you'll go to, again, TMurphyWild.com as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. Tom, I have a couple of other questions I want to ask you in regards to what you've just talked about, and I'm curious how how has your upbringing, and we are going back a few years here. I mean, for me, it goes back a good 60 some odd years. I'm 65. How has your upbringing, as you see it, influenced you in the way in which you live and again work? We'll keep that one wide open there because I don't work either. I love what I do. But how has that upbringing formed who you are today and what you are doing today?
Um, it's not as probably somewhat a straight line. Um, Again, I grew up on this cattle ranch. I was my dad's hired man, the oldest son, and I had all kinds of responsibilities, going out and pulling calves that moms couldn't give birth on their own, feeding hay and cutting ice when it's 40 below zero. It was part of the job of being a ranch kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so so that part of it, being able to work outside, or it was 100 degrees when it was hot, putting up hay or whatever, fixing fence. Um, I'm not afraid of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm comfortable in basically all kinds of weather. My wife says to people, don't ask Tom what to wear in the wintertime because it's never enough. I don't, as long as I'm moving, I don't need much for clothing. But so that's kind of a result of being growing up on this isolated cattle ranch in western
Mm-hmm.
South Dakota. And then and the work ethic is important too. That was my job. I figured everybody did similar things. And of course, when I got older, I realized almost nobody did what I did. There aren't that many cattle ranches now, big cattle ranches still around. And so um, again, I started out thinking I didn't know what I wanted to do for a living. So I went to college for a couple of years, like I said, to be a chemist. And I realized that wasn't where I wanted to go. So my life progression basically was when I had a choice, I had to do stuff that I didn't, drive truck and finish concrete. That wasn't really that satisfying, but I needed to have a living, make a living. But every time I had a choice, I chose the option that was more interesting, more fun.
Mm.
And and that's kind of where I ended up here. If I had sat down, somebody asked me 50 years ago, what's the ideal job that you'd like to have as progress? I have it right now. I've searched for beauty. I find it quite often. Well, again, Murphy's luck, and people like it. They like what I show. I mean, I've had a lot of good response to my uh, to my work. It was never something I planned for 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I did stuff that I found was challenging, interesting, and fun.
Yeah. Well, you and I are kindred spirits in that regard. I've done the same by what I do, whether it's running a radio station or conducting these interviews. And I can't even imagine how many photographs you've taken in the 40 plus years that you've been taking pictures. It must be in maybe the hundreds of millions, if not the millions.
No, not that many hundreds. But yeah, it's been a lot. I mean, if I my computer program or system here that called Lightroom that manages or keeps track of my photographs. There's 148,000 photographs on that system right now.
Mm,
Then I've shot slides. That's digital stuff for many years. I didn't keep most of the black and white negatives, but I've had to put a number on it. I mean, I throw away as many as I can, and
yeah.
I found, in the slide days, I pick out the best ones and throw away the worst ones, and then keep the middle ground and stick them under the bed. Well, they don't get any better sitting under the bed. So that's kind of a
I
waste
could
of
have
time.
sworn, oh, through the fermentation process, they
That's
would be.
right. That's right. It should be, like cheese or wine, it should get better.
Exactly.
But anyway, so what happened was probably I would guess if I had to throw a number out there, maybe 1.5 million, just as a
Mm,
number, just throw it out there.
yeah.
And I've kept uh, too many of them actually. So that's I get some spare time. On this 148,000 photographs on my digital file. I'd like to throw 50,000 of those away. And so what happens is, kind of going back to what I mentioned about Africa and Antarctica, I shoot a lot because I haven't seen it before. And then as I shoot more, I get better stuff. I get better
Mm,
light, I get better behavior. So the stuff that I was sort of satisfied with to begin with, I've got better stuff. So why do I keep the older stuff? So that's kind of where I am.
yeah.
I'm better at what I do because I'm more knowledgeable, and and my luck accumulates. So I get better, accumulation of really good experiences and stories. So I keep them for a while. And then at some point I said, well, I'm never going to show these anyway, so I just as well ditch them.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of of it's a learning process. Like for example, the I classify wildlife photography as three levels, three layers. The first one is it's a bison. It's just standing there. It's a good illustration. I shoot them, and sometimes people are interested in those. The next level of interest is the bison is doing something, behavior, interacting with the environment, that each other bison or coyotes or wolves or whatever. So now you have a second uh, level of interest, and it's a bison, but yet who is this bison?
Mm,
What's their life like? And then the third one is the hardest to get of all, and that is a bison doing something in a beautiful landscape. So if you even cover up the bison, it's still a nice photograph. So, and those are the hardest to get because all this stuff that I can't control has to come together, and I have to be in the right place at the right time, the right kind of light with the right equipment. And I love that. I mean, I like serendipity
mhm,
because I have to respond um, in an educated way to make a good photograph
yeah.
and tell a story that somebody else wants to look at. I My measure basically is if somebody looks at one of my photographs and they're enter that and look at that undistracted for 5 seconds. That's a successful photograph.
Oh,
You know, well,
wow.
that's not very long. But if you look at, kind of be self-conscious, look through a magazine, whatever, most people don't spend more than 1 or 2 seconds on a photograph or a painting or whatever. And so what if they're successful, what happens is people have learned something. They walk into that mentally, into that landscape or that animal's life, and they learn something and they make a connection. And
Mm.
that's my goal.
The old saying, that once you've heard it, or in this case, once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. And that's the beautiful thing. It's now, you talked about it earlier, you've got more pictures in your head, in your memory, than you
Mhm,
do on your hard drive or in a drawer somewhere.
mhm.
And I say the same thing about this program when it comes to when it comes to what we talk about on this program of a more metaphysical or esoteric nature. That once you've heard what we've been talking about, you can't unhear it. You're going to have to deal with it. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but somewhere down the road, it's going to come back up in your mind, and you're going, oh, yeah, I remember hearing about blah, blah, blah. And in this case, we certainly hope people will go to tmurphywild.com to see some of the work that you are doing. And I'm sure that when the book is released, the large, you said 11 by 12-inch coffee table book of all these wonderful pictures will be available. And I'm sure on your website, that will be notifying folks on the website to get a copy of that through Amazon and I'm sure many other locations as well. We're talking with Tom Murphy, incredible images, incredible photographer, been doing this for more than 40 years and then some. And we are going to continue our conversation as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I am Richard Dugan, Reverend Dr. D. He is Tom Murphy. TMurphyWild.com is the website, and we're talking about a lot of images that you are looking at if you're looking at the YouTube or Rumble video. And you can, of course, go to TMurphyWild.com to see more of those and also get a number. You have a number of books. You mentioned that this new one that's coming out is what, number 11 or 12?
think it's either 12 or 13. I can't remember. I did a series of seasons of Yellowstone, uh,
Oh.
Light of Spring, The Abundance of Summer, The Comfort of Autumn, and The
Mm.
Spirit of Winter, a set of those covering, again, all 4 seasons in Yellowstone. First book I did was called Silence and Solitude, and that's about Yellowstone in the winter. I did another winter book too, because I love winter. I don't like bugs, so I like it cold.
You and me both.
And then the book on birds,
Mhm.
like who are birds? Not it's not a field guide or a guide to go
Mhm.
ahead and identify the birds, but it's about their feathers, about their migrations, and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And then with a friend of mine named Bruce Falk, who's a professor at University of Illinois, we did a college textbook on Mammoth Hot Springs in Yellowstone Park. There's a lot of thermal features in Yellowstone, like 10,000 altogether, including geysers. My favorite is Mammoth Hot Springs because it's so dynamic. And Bruce studied that complex there for 25 years and learned a lot about formation of the rock, the travertine, the bacteria that live there. And so it was a lot of fun to put that book together with him. And let's see, I did got a journal, trying to go over the books I have. And then but this bison book has been on my list to do for a long time. And
Mhm.
wonderful lady from Dallas named Elizabeth Webb. She encouraged both Chris and I to get down and get together and work on this book and produce this book. And it's kind of celebrating the survival of the bison, almost where it went extinct 500 years ago when Columbus discovered himself in America. They estimate there was between 30 and 60 million bison on this continent. By the end of the 19th century, there was maybe 1,500 left in the world.
Mm.
It's particularly tragic because it was the last member of what they called Pleistocene megafauna, large ice age animals. And there were mammoths and mastodons, giant sloths, dire wolves, short-faced bears, these big, big animals. And the only one left was at the end of the 19th century were bison. And they're just cool. They're unusual looking, this big hump. They're huge. The bulls get up to a ton in size, and they can outrun a horse. And I mean, they're just amazing animals. And we almost destroyed them.
Mm,
And so Yellowstone Park is was and still is critical to their survival. The wild, genetically pure bison. That's the core of this surviving animal. There's about a 500,000 bison in the world right now, but most of them are not purebred bison.
mm,
And but Yellowstone is really critical to the survival of these creatures, the wild ones, and
mhm.
the genetically pure animals. So right now there's about 5,500 head of bison in Yellowstone. Yesterday and the day before, I went up, rode in a truck with Chris Jeremiah to deliver 63 bison from Yellowstone Park to the Fort Peck Indian Reservation. They're
Mm,
trying to distribute these genetically pure, valuable bison to other places so that there's a spread spread the good word, basically, that bison are important. And
yeah.
I think it was 10 years ago, bison was named a national mammal, and
Wow.
rightfully so. You know, we have the national bird and all that, but the national mammal is the bison.
Mm,
And it was on a nickel for a while. It was on the back of a $10 bill. It's been on stamps a couple other times, but this one is kind of a cool stamp, not because I have a photograph on it, but it's kind of a neat juxtaposition of a modern bison, my photograph in the background, which I made in Hayden Valley in Yellowstone Park about 15, 20 years ago. And then there's an overlay of a 1923 postage stamp, and the bison on that, illustrated on that stamp, was one that was in the Smithsonian institution. It was a drawing of this bison that was stuffed dead in the Smithsonian. So it's kind of a cool historical juxtaposition, and and I find it really interesting that it's kind of a neat historic transition now. Yellowstone is now able to transfer hopefully lots of bison out of their population, really important, valuable bison, these purebred bison, to other places and distribute them around the continent again.
yeah. You know, we could, the thoughts that just are racing through my head, and I have to pick the right ones here because otherwise we'll be here for 2 or 3 hours. But uh, obviously, you are very much involved in what I consider to be what should be the core of, and again, I'm not trying to be political here, mind you. Conservation should be the focal point of the conservative
Yep.
movement, if you will, as well as the other side of the aisle too, with the L. But I want to ask you about, before we wrap up, this will be my final question for you in regards to this conversation, and that is, what are your thoughts regarding the way in which the media, specifically, I'm thinking, and I mentioned this to you before we started, about the television programs, not documentaries. Documentaries usually do a very nice job of promoting this whole aspect. Programs that, like what Kevin or Costner put out, in particular, the program Yellowstone. And what do you think? What are your observations regarding the pros and the cons of people doing those kinds of things and trying to show this type of life and lifestyle? Whether they're going back to the prequel of 18, I think it was 1863, and then the next one is 1924, I think, or 25 with Harrison Ford and so forth. It seems to me like the one Yellowstone, which is in modern times, would draw more people to the area, and then, as even the series would depict, start to absolutely destroy the natural world by trying to bring in the modern conveniences.
Well, first of all, I don't watch much television. I've got more interesting things to watch
I'm sure, yes.
outside. Um, but I have watched a couple episodes of that Yellowstone television show, and there's a couple things that are disturbing to me about that. It's mostly inaccurate in
Hmm.
terms of the value of wild country. I mean, the goal of these shows, not just Yellowstone, there's hundreds of television shows that I hear
Sure.
about. It's
Hmm.
mostly has to do with drama and
Hmm.
conflict.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's not what I want to do with my life. I don't like drama and conflict.
Join the club.
And so that's sort of one of my resistance to these shows. And not, I'm not picking on any of these
Sure.
modern television shows specifically. So what happens though is people potentially they see what's going on around here as kind of crazy. There's people fighting and shooting. There's something on this Yellowstone show thing, something about taking them to the train station or something, and it's a
Yeah, it's an area where
euphemism for
there's,
throwing
yeah.
them off a cliff or something.
Hmm.
God, we don't do that out here.
No.
And I mean, there's still people that think there's Indians running around shooting people with arrows out here and whatever. That's not their life at all. So anyway, I'm rambling a little bit, but but what happens is, in the good sense, is people can make a connection that it's the television show was filmed on western Montana, south of Missoula, and it's a beautiful place. The landscape's spectacular. Western Montana's mountains, and it's beautiful like Yellowstone Park. So that's positive. They value the beauty of the place. But what's happening in Bozeman, Montana, and Livingston to a certain extent is there's just too many people moving here, and it's too much stress on the neighboring wild country. Everybody wants to recreate, and I don't blame them for that. But to a certain extent, we end up loving places to death.
Hmm.
Can cut them forest down and mine them and whatever. That's one way to destroy it. But you can also destroy it by just too much impact. Too many people wanting to ride their mountain bikes or their snowmobiles or even just hiking. And because animals need their own space, they have to make their living in a real place.
Hmm.
Wild country for wildlife is necessary, and to the best hope for them is to give them lots of space where we just leave them alone. And so that's kind of one of the things I'm trying to do with my photography. Like I mentioned earlier, I stay away as far as I can. I use big lenses, and I don't want them to interact with me. If my presence, they get nervous, I leave. Because it's not about me. They're not there for my photographs. They're not there for your photographs. They're there because that's where they live.
Yeah.
And so if somebody, a stranger walks into your living room, you're going to say, get nervous about that.
Yep.
And so that's what I feel I need to be a good guest in their place. And sometimes the best guest is the ones that don't show up.
Yep. We've invited a number of people to come stay with us now that we have a guest room, a three-bedroom, two bath, and we have a guest room up on the second floor that we already have made up and ready for someone who wants to visit. And we've had a few since we moved here, one or two that have only been here for a day or so, and that was nice. But I'm kind of with you on that comment about a stranger walking through your front door and sitting down on your couch and sitting next to you watching TV, and they're like, "What are you doing? Get out of here!"
There's an old saying in Montana. We have 9 months of winter and 3 months of company.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Well, I'll tell you, the experiences that my wife and I are having up here at a mile high,
Mhm.
for 5,700 feet above sea level, as compared to 2,200 feet, which is where our old place was above sea level. It was the mountains above Santa Barbara, and going down to sea level and enjoying the beach and everything. This is very interesting. I was out to actually the day before this conversation you and I are having. And I was out there shoveling the snow, making a path from the front door up to the road. And it isn't more than, I'm going to say 20, 30 feet.
Mhm.
And I didn't make a real wide path. I figured I don't need a real wide one so I can minimize my work. And I woke up this morning before this interview and I'm going, why am I so sore?
Right,
I
right.
don't understand. And
You
oh,
don't do it
that's
every
right.
day.
I was shoveling snow. I
Right.
know a lot of people who come from snow country, whether it's Chicago or New York, what have you, who shovel snow and they move to warmer climes where there is no snow most of the time. I was actually having a blast. I mean, I was just enjoying myself
Mhm.
and that experience and so forth. And I'm not going to go out there after the first day and start shoveling. I mean, because there's not much on the ground, so I got to wait a day or two and then start working on it. But I'm just really enjoying this. I'm going to say extension of where we used to live at 2,200 feet, and there are a lot of people around us, more so than back in Santa Barbara. We have neighbors, and we're not alone. So if we have a problem, we can certainly go to someone and say, "Hey." And it's kind of nice. But when you're living out way out in the middle of nowhere, whether it's Montana or Wyoming or Nebraska or North or South Dakota, those are the big places. Even when I moved for a month to Idaho, Boise, and yes, it was 1 month I stayed. I didn't find a job, so I went back to Phoenix. It was really beautiful. And I know all of that country up north is gorgeous, but there are also lots of places right where we live, whether it's California or Arizona, where I'm from, or whatever the area is. Find the beauty. And I'll tell you what, folks, TomMurphy has found it. And I bet you, Tom, just real quickly, that I'm sure you have one, at least one of these photographs of a bison with a bird on its back.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, those to me are really cool. The interaction
Right,
and
exactly.
we'll call it collaboration, if you will,
Mhm, mhm.
symbiotic relationship
Right, right.
amongst the various animals that are out there in the wild. I want to thank you for what you have shared with us here on the program, not only verbally, but also as far as the images that we've been showing folks on the video, and what you're doing to help all of us to understand how important the wild is. My favorite artist, John Denver, has written so many songs
Mhm, mhm.
about the wild country, and there's even a quote that they play as far as part of his memorial online about that's what we really want to be is wild, to
Mhm.
be free to be who we are and grow and so forth. So thank you for contributing to all of this to help us all to understand better how
Thank,
important the wild country is.
thank you. Thank you. We need it. We really do need it more than ever.
Yeah. Well, I have three final questions that I ask all of my guests, and I will ask those of you in just a moment. But first, thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story New Paradigms for a New World, where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com with podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and many, many other locations on the internet. And as I mentioned before, we're also on YouTube and Rumble, where you can watch these conversations. You'll be able to see some incredible images to start with. And then you go to tmurphywild.com to see even more and get some copies of his book. I think that'd be a wonderful thing to do. We also ask you to subscribe and click notification when you go to these different podcast and videocast locations. We also ask you to go to Amazon to pick up a copy of my book, Choices, 5 Steps for Life, available in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle. And if you could leave us a tip, we'd be most appreciative. Our tip jar, if you will, is PayPal. And there are links to both Amazon and PayPal at the top of richarddugan.com. And finally, we ask that you take some time to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place, whether you're sitting out in the middle of nature, out in the middle of nowhere, or you're sitting in your living room, doesn't matter, to listen to and follow the promptings of that still small voice. And with all of that, we go to our final three questions for our very special guest who's got a great eye, I got to tell you, looking through that view screen. Um, who is Thomas Murphy?
He tries to be a good person, giving back to the community. and its community is where I live and my profession.
What gets you up in the morning?
Uh, Magpies. We feed magpies in our backyard and birds. I love birds.
And finally, sort of a naturalistic kind of question comes from a movie. Mitch and his two buddies are riding horseback out in the desert or in the mountains, actually, and he asks them this question I ask you. What was your best day?
Hmm. I got about 1,000 of them. Probably the best day is when I hear a little kid laugh.
Hmm. Hmm. Once again, thank you so much for being a part of the work that we're doing here to try to make this a better place for everyone. And we look forward to more of your work. I'm going to wait as soon as I get notification that your book is out. I'm going to get myself a copy and not just put it on the coffee table or bookshelf. I know that my wife and I even showed her your photographs that were sent to me to be a part of this video cast, and she was just taken. We both laughed when we saw the squirrels, the five squirrels. That was just
Yeah.
just an incredible.
Family
And
portrait.
yeah, and the thing that I love about it more than anything else is the fact that they weren't looking at you.
Right.
Their attention was off in the
Mhm.
distance,
Mhm.
and that was so wonderful. Well, again, thank you so much. And I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for being in my life and letting me be in yours. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.